Casual here. Outriders has now been out for more than 3 months, and while I still see new players joining the game every day, many will have moved on to other games. I have more than 600 hours invested in the game and I'm still loving it. Yes, the endgame is limited and repetitive, but what is not is the almost limitless ways to create interesting builds using the huge number of mods out there. But for many people it will be new content that keeps them playing, or even brings them back to the game. In this video I'm going to set out 5 things I would like to see in the future. I would love to hear your thoughts on this as well, and maybe if we can get enough of a discussion going here, People Can Fly will take note. Let's get into it. For me, the thing that Outriders misses the most is variety in the endgame. The expeditions are all essentially the same format, even if they have different environments. They are time trials that eliminate the viability of anything but DPS builds and make half the mods in the game irrelevant. To keep players interested and to make more diverse builds viable, the game needs new modes that are not a pure DPS check. Essentially we need 4-man instances and even larger raids, where tanks and support classes are a critical part of a team's makeup. Rewards for these should be attached to the difficulty of the enemies, not to how quickly you can kill them. I would also like to see other game modes for both teams and solo play. Outriders needs to be prepared to steal with pride from other looter shooters. Underground survival and resistance from the Division, for example, the legendary quest lines from Destiny, seasonal events from Borderlands 3. All of these would add significantly to the variety of the endgame and keep players coming back for more. Replaying hunts, bounties and campaign missions are mainly pointless because the gear is very low level and the cost to level up legendaries too high. The option to play these at a CT level of your choice so that the gear is meaningful would be a great addition to the game. Even better than that, what about weekly hunts and bounties with targeted loot, creating an easier way to finish builds with the gear that you need. Clearly many of these game modes will push the game towards a live service model, but I don't think that that is a bad thing because the core game is strong enough to flourish in such an environment. Now I get that new game modes is not something that PCF can introduce in the short term unless they have been building and balancing them for some time prior to the launch of the original game. Pre-launch PCF indicated that if the game was successful more content would be coming, but it would be naive though to think that additional content wasn't already in development when the game was launched. But what I'm expecting is that it will be more of the same. A new campaign or storyline to complete, hopefully filling in some of the holes in the original one, new zones to explore, new enemies to fight. And for me this is an important one as there isn't much variety in the enemies currently other than a different skin. What about the huge monster we saw way back in Terra Firma? When do we get to fight that? While more expeditions are definitely a possibility, I don't think we actually need any more unless they are fundamentally different from anything we have seen already. More repetition is not a good thing. There are a ton of legendary weapons in the game, 46 in total, and I don't think that we need any more right now. This can wait until a new weapon archetype is introduced, something which we also don't need. Saying that, I would like to see random roll legendary weapons given that many just don't work how they've been set up right now. Gearsets are a little light though, with only 3 per class, and to be honest the gearset bonuses are often underwhelming when they actually work. The Plague Sower gearset for example does improve survivability, but a 5-second uptime does not feel legendary to me. They are also a little unfocused with some buffing skills, while others are clearly more focused on class trees. With 9 skills and 3 branches to each class tree, 3 gearsets are clearly going to leave a lot uncovered. I would love to see more legendary gearsets that are truly legendary and creative gearset bonuses that make more hybrid and skill builds viable. I would also like to see legendary gearsets with 5-piece bonuses. Running a full 5 pieces of a gearset is suboptimal at the moment, as the stats on them are rarely a match for epic gear you can use. It would be great to have a reason to wear a full set, something that makes them truly powerful and worth grinding for. Speaking of stats on gear, I would like the ability to optimize gear similar to the optimization table in the Division. I think that only being able to swap out one mod is fine, but I would also like to be able to swap out one stat, replacing status power with range damage for example. PCF have always said that grinding for hundreds of hours to create builds was not their intention, yet this is exactly the position we are in. Being able to replace one stat would reduce this without eliminating the grind completely. Even with all of the hours I've played this game, I've yet to get a god roll other than the items that the devs gave us. Not even close. The combined RNG for firepower or armor, stats and mods is too much, making it very unlikely you will ever get that game-changing weapon or gear that is optimum for all. On top of that, getting legendary weapon drops where the firepower is lower than 80 to 85,000 is a frustrating waste of time. In the absence of changing these core RNG systems, I would like to see devs give us some way to level up gear and improve firepower or armor up to the max. This could be implemented through a rare resource, something other than titanium, which can be obtained through grinding a new game mode say, or dismantling legendary gear. I do think the increase in legendary drop rates and the anti-duplication system were a good step forward, making the completion of builds just a little bit easier. The drop rates on helmets are still way too low though. The Borealis crown haunts me still. There still needs to be a targeted way to get legendary gear. It isn't that hard really to address this. Just assign certain legendary items to specific expeditions or groups of expeditions so that by farming those alone you will eventually get the gear that you need. I don't think that we need a new class yet in the game. There are so many potential builds in the game already, particularly if the devs can get the buffs coming soon right, and the game modes are so limited that another class is not going to add much at this point. If new game modes are introduced, then this would absolutely make sense. But not right now. At the moment the class trees for each class are too similar, with a firepower, anomaly power status effect and survivability tree in each. Skills do set the classes apart somewhat, albeit many are just a different skin on the same type of effect. Pyro's Heatwave and Devastator's Earthquake for example, or Volcanic Twisted and Blighted rounds. What I would like to see is either a new unique branch for each class or a rework of the ones we currently have. Something that makes each class so unique that grinding to max level doesn't feel like the exact same formula time and time again. I do appreciate the differences between the classes there are, particularly in the Pyromancer and Technomancer, which have some truly unique skills. But in the end, having 4 characters with essentially the same meta firepower or anomaly builds, using the same guns and often the same armor, is a real missed opportunity for me. Maybe this is taking the game too far down the MMORPG path and away from the premise that all classes were once gun-toting Outriders, but I do think it would improve replayability significantly, as well as setting us up for new game modes in the future. Thanks for watching this video. I'm very interested in your thoughts on how this game should be developed going forward, so please do leave a comment below. I'm excited to hear more about the new content that PCF are working on, to see them implement all the fixes that are still needed, and to implement further balancing in the game to address those builds that are underpowered. I think this game has a solid future ahead of it, whether as a live service game or not, and I will continue to put out content on it while that is the case. Until next time, casual out.